let's say about 25 years ago, I had a conversation with my father, and I can remember it. I can smell his cologne when I talk about it. That's how it's burnt into my brain. I remember what he was wearing. And he says to me, he says, John, I have failed. I have failed as a parent. I have failed as a Catholic. I said, Dad, what are you talking about? And he's crying. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I have 4 children, and not one of you go to church. You don't support the church. And I said, Dad, but you don't understand. I said, Missy's a nurse. Judys a teacher. I'm a cop. David's a cop. We all do, stuff for the people. We're helping people. He goes, I understand that. I didn't say you weren't good people. I said, you're not good Catholics. You're not doing the right thing. You're not going to church. You're not praying. You're not doing the right thing. And it was like getting kicked in the stomach. Like I was like, because I believed in God. I was like, of course I believe in God. I love God. It's the reason I'm here. But he was right. I wasn't going to church on Sundays. I wasn't supporting the church. So it really hurt me. It really hurt me. So I started going to Mass. I started once in a while. I started going to Mass. I was a cop, so, I was working nights. I always worked nights. I worked overnights for 30 years as a police officer. So it was tough for me to get to Mass sometimes, but I went when I could on Sundays, for my day off, or if I could get out of work early, I'd get to church, and I'd go. And I started to get it. I'm looking. I was like, this is pretty good. I really like this. So I started really trying to get there every Sunday, and it was going good. So that goes. So I've met many people in church life. Obviously, you meet a ton of people in church life. The deacon has been great for me. All the different priests we've had, and all the different people that have come over the summer times with the different priests we've had. I've become friends with a lot of them. But it's the people, and it's the people in the seats and how welcoming they are. The first time someone comes, do you get up out of your seat and say, "Hey, I've never seen you before. Hey, how you doing, dude?" Welcoming like that. And for me, that guy was Larry DiStefano, and probably a couple of you guys remember him. Larry he was an unbelievable guy. He was. He'd meet people at the door. Oh, you look great today. You look great. You look awesome. But he was saying that to everybody. I was like, geez, I must look great. But he was saying it to everybody. I was like, geez, he's just said that to someone else, But he was a wonderful, wonderful guy. And he was a true Catholic, great guy for us. So he was just great. He was great to everybody. He used to say to my dad, he said, "Oh, it's so wonderful to see a father and son come into this church." And my father would smile. So oh my God, I've never seen my father smile like that. It was awesome. So around the year 2000, that's when I was going to Sunday Mass all the time. And everything went well. 8 years or so, 2008, January 2008, my best friend, Philip O'Keefe, passed away in his sleep. This was a low point in my life. I literally saw black for 5 days. I couldn't function. I didn't know. I couldn't believe this happened. He was married. He had a daughter that was in kindergarten. This kid just died in his sleep. There was no reason for it. He was he was a better Catholic than I was. He was a great kid. He was just a perfect human being, and he was taken young, and that really hurt me. I prayed a lot. I was like, well, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And it really hurt me a lot. So then a year later, in May 12th of 2009, my mother is diagnosed with cancer, and we bring her home for the last time. She passes away of cancer, surrounded by the family. Again, it hurt me, parents are supposed to die. I understand that. But we were a very close family, and it really hurt me a lot. I still lived at home with my parents, even though I was a cop. I was, living down in the basement, and it rocked my world. So now that Dad has lost his wife, his church partner, I asked him, I said, Dad, can I go to church with you on Sundays? Can we go together? And he's like, of course, yeah, let's start going together. So we started going, and it was the least I could do for him. He needed that, and he needed to know that I was going with him every Sunday, and he needed to know that I was going to be there. So he really was proud. Every time we walked through that door together, he was so proud. Like sometimes we'd go together, sometimes I'd meet him there after Mass, and we'd walk in together, and he was just so proud. It was awesome. It was really good. So as that time goes on, the police department knows that I'm going to church in the morning. I'm going in uniform, and so I go to the chief and I said, listen, Mass starts at 7:30 in the morning. I don't take a dinner break overnight. Can I go to Mass in the morning? I'll take the cruiser. You don't get out till 8 o'clock, so I couldn't go to Mass in the morning. He's like, yeah, you don't take a lunch. You should be able to take a lunch. You can take your lunch the last half hour of your shift. I said, I'll take the cruiser with me. I won't leave it. So if I get a call, I'll listen to my radio. I'll bounce out of church, and I'll go to any call that I have. He goes, that's good. That's great. It's your lunch break. You don't have to, but if you want to do that, that's fine. So that was unbelievable for me because I was working overnight, so I could get out. I could go to church every day at St. Pat's when I got out, and I did. I started going to church every day. I was there every morning. And I remember, so my father says to me, did you do something wrong? Like, why do you go to church every day? What's going on? Like, he thought I did something I was atoning for. I said, no, that's not it, Dad. That's not it. I love going to church, and I think I need it right now. And he's like, oh, that's great, because we went together during Lent. But then after Lent, he dropped off, and I kept going. And he was like, well, I saw the cruiser in front of the church. Are you still going? I'm like, yeah, I'm still going. So then on July 31st, 2012, we bring home my dad, Charlie, for the last time. He passes away of cancer at home, surrounded by his family. So that was 2012. Now we're into 2013. April 15th, 2013, we have the Boston Marathon bombings, where they set off bombs as everybody knows, at the finish line, killed 4 people, injured 250 plus, 17 people lost limbs. Horrendous thing right next to our town. I mean, you could step over the line into Boston, and that on Patriots Day, that really hurt me. I remember going to church, and I remember praying and saying, how could this happen? How could this happen to us? My world was like falling apart. Like everything just kept coming. It was an amazing thing. We sent people into Boston. We sent our SWAT teams in. We sent other, we're a small town. We only have four cruisers on overnight. One and me, the supervisor, driving around at night. We do what we can. Even though we're right next door, we tried to help out as much as we can. But we can only do so much. So they're looking for these guys that did the marathon bombing, and unfortunately 4 days later, on April 19th, dozens of my brothers and sisters and myself were almost killed in a shootout with these 2 angry, confused, and hateful terrorists who ambushed Officer Joe Reynolds and myself, and we were met with pipe bombs, gunfire, and a pressure cooker bomb. We were very lucky that night. Every time I run this through my head, there's cops die every time. It's unbelievable that no police officers. We had 1 police officer almost die, friendly fire at the end of the gunfight, but not 1 cop got seriously injured, and that's just amazing. It's just amazing, and I know why it happened. I know God was with me that night. Everybody says, what was it like? Like, did it slow down? Like everybody says it slowed down. And yeah, I mean, I remember it. I remember the whole thing. I remember it slowing down, but I know I was being moved around like a chess piece. I was behind a tree that I thought was, big as two of these lally columns. I thought I was hiding behind this big tree. I went back the next day and it wasn't even half the size of my body. And it took 5 bullets. I mean, any one of those or every one of those could have hit me. The house behind me had 10 bullets in it. The car beside me had 7 bullets in it. There was blast stuff all around me to the point where the FBI agents who did our crime scene said, there's no way that sergeant could have been there the whole time. There's no way he could have been, but they counted all my brass that came out of my gun, and every single one was right there. And they said, geez, we basically thought you were confused and you didn't know where you were. We don't know how you were standing in that spot and walked away. But I do. I know how. So God was with us that night, and God was with me for sure. So October 18th, 2014, a year later, my Irish twin sister, Judy, passes away from a brain tumor after an 8-month battle. She was so sick, we could not even keep her at home. I wanted to keep her home like my mom and dad, but we had to put her into a place. So she passed away in a hospice house where she could still smoke her medical marijuana. Back then, it wasn't as legal as it is now, so we thought it was so cool that she used to get to smoke pot, and she was so happy. She's like, ooh, like can't get arrested. She thought it was so awesome. She was awesome. So I know God can only give you what you can handle, and I know I needed Him most, at those times. I mean, within 5 years, I had all tragedies thrown at me time after time. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, and I got through it. I mean, it was sad, but I got through it, and I know the only reason I got through it is because of my faith. It's the only reason, and I know for sure it's the only reason more police officers weren't killed that night. I'm telling. I know it for sure. I know it in my heart. I know that God saved the good guys that night, and I really believe that. So, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening to me. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Say something about
how good the drinking is.
during your police work, like how you weren't just like doing like police, like narrow police work in terms of enforcing the law. You had your eyes open for the needs of people, and also during the time, during the end of that, you were also active in St. Vincent de Paul.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
comment on how like basically you and then even other police officers that you know, like how have you guys like noticed, you guys and gals noticed like the needs of people and help them?
Yeah, it wasn't as common as it is now, I mean, it's like big now, there's always been homeless. There's always been people on the edges. There's always been people on the fringes. I used to help the people from the projects. Usually most of the people that, we didn't have a big homeless population in Watertown. We didn't have a homeless population in Watertown till probably 10 years ago. And so I would go to the projects and I would help families in the projects. I would, ice cream day, pizza day. I'd hang around with the kids. That's the reason I got on the motorcycle. I wanted to be a motorcycle cop because I knew that I could draw more kids in with the motorcycle. I knew that's what would do it. So through that, I would tell people, hey, if you come across someone who needs something, let me know. Let me know. I got people that like to help them, and I got people, so people would know if you run into someone. Oh, MacLellan will help them. MacLellan will give you a gift card or something. Will he'll help them out and make sure you get to him. And then I'd go to the people at Diane Murphy. She was unbelievable. Her mother and father are in our parish, and she actually works for the police department now, but she worked for housing, and she was my number one because she knew she could cut through all the bullshit. And she says, yeah, there's 300 families up here, but these are the 10 families that need shit, excuse me. So these are the ones that need it, so, and then you'd help them, so it's always good to have someone in the know, because then you can cut out all the other stuff and not give to the people that don't really need it. But it was very important to me to help people that didn't have what I was given. I was given every day, and given I can go out and at any point and work a detail and make, incredible money and do hardly nothing, So, I think I should be able to give some of that away, or most of it away, at this point. It's time to do that. That's what it's about, I think there's a lot of police officers that do the same thing I do, but they do it, they don't want people to know, or they don't want, oh, hey, I do this, but don't tell them, don't tell anybody. I don't want anyone to know. And they'll say, oh, I don't want people to know because more people will ask me, but that's not it. They just don't want their name out there. They just want to do it on their own. And that's cool. You do it however you want it. That's how it should be done. Right. And it's, no one's saying that. They're saying it because they don't want the recognition. They don't want to be out there, But it's very important. It was always important for me to help the people that need the help. Like when I worked at the high school, I didn't go to the captain of the football team and the cheerleaders and talk to them all the time. You talk to the kids who have no friends, and the kids who need you, and who need everyone talks to those people. They're pretty, they're beautiful. They get all this. That's the same way I ran as a police officer. I pull over a pretty girl. She's getting a ticket. An ugly girl's going on her way. The ugly girl's she's got to pay for her own dinner. She's got to pay for her own. All the pretty girls getting all the free stuff. She can afford a ticket. I'm only joking with that, but it's the truth. It is the truth, So it's just the way everyone should live their life. Everyone should live their life. If someone doesn't have something and you can give it to them, you should give it to them. It's the way it is.
Early at St. Vincent de Paul, there was a guy, I think he was sort of sitting on the street curb, and you drove past him, and then you thought about it, you circled back and went back to him. Do you remember that story? He was going to kill himself.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's a good story.
Yeah. That is an awesome story, but it's, I'll tell it and then I'll give you the update. So, it was a family up in the projects, and it was very bad situation. No father there, mother, 2 children, all of them on drugs, all of them, mother and the kids. Mother worse than all of them. And just problems. But the younger boy was huge alcohol. It wasn't drugs, more just alcohol with him. But he'd get so drunk, we'd have to pump his stomach, bring him to the hospital, that drunk. So I see him sitting on the curb one night, and I drive by him, and I just the way he was sitting, I don't know, something was weird. I said, I got to go back and talk to him. I said, what's going on? I went back around. He's like, and he's talking, and I'm like, he's not slurring at all. I'm like, and then I look at him, stone sober. And he's like, Sergeant, it's over. I said, what do you mean it's over? He goes, tonight's my last night. I'm going to kill myself. I said, no, you're not. He goes, no, you're not. He goes, yes, I am. And he goes, you can't stop me. I'm doing it. He goes, I made it. And I sat down with him for a couple of hours. I missed calls. I sat with him, and I wasn't going to leave him because I knew he was in a bad way. He was ready to go. He had a plan. He was going to do it. He was waiting for a car to jump. He was waiting for a truck big enough to jump onto, because he goes, I don't want to get hit and not die. He goes, I want to die. He goes, I'm going to dive under it, and I'm going for my head to go under that front tire. And that was his. He goes, I don't want to do it drunk because I know I'll screw it up. So he waited and got sober and to jump in front of this truck. So we talk, and whatever I said, he seemed to have got it. We hugged it out. I got him home. He started doing better. He got an apartment. I got him away from his family, got him in his own apartment. Unfortunately, he has passed. He drank himself to death. So he did, but he did not, I don't think he did it on purpose. I think he just went back to it, and his insides they said his insides were hollow. This kid could drink. Nothing would come back up. He could just drink a bottle of vodka and would never come back up. He could hold anything. So he, some people, I don't know, some people are just in so much pain, they just can't stand to be here another minute, and you hope they go straight to heaven, you don't know what, I can't imagine it being that bad to be able to do that to yourself, but it's gotta be so horrible to be able to do that to yourself. So it is. Yeah, please pray for him. I do. I pray for the family. The mother's gone now. The father's gone. Daniel's gone. The sister's still around with the children. So, we can still help her as much as we can, and hopefully the kids break the cycle.
John, one of the things I took from your story, like not once in your story did you mention at all that you questioned God's decision when your mother passed, your father passed, when you dealt with everything, your sister and everything else. And I find that remarkable because there's so many people out there. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day, and she was talking to me about friends of hers who have cancer or whatever, and they're blaming God for everything. And it was like, and she's trying to relate to them as to how you can't be blaming God. There's a plan, there's this, there's that. But one of the things, your story is remarkable. One of the things I took from that, you didn't question God at all as to why is this happening to me, why is this happening to my family. And I think that's remarkable because that's the first thing that you hear out of people's mouths when tragedy strikes is, why is God doing this to me? I do this or I do that, I go to church, or, that's why I stopped going to church, because God doesn't listen. But I thought it was remarkable in your talk that there was never doubt. Your faith was never in question.
Nope.
The whole time.
No, I the only thing I think about church is why did I start going to daily mass? Like, why did I do that? And I know why I did it. I liked going to mass. It, to me, in the morning to go to daily mass and then go to the gym, I feel like $1 million. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I'm not, and I've said this to a couple of people one-on-one. I've never said it to a group of people. I have been in mass. I think it's happened 2 or maybe 3 times, and I literally have said to myself, am I in heaven already? And I'm not kidding you. I'm like, my life is that good that I really feel like I'm in heaven already. So I'm like, if God can give you that, you should give as much back as you can, and that's where I'm at. I just want to give back as much as I can, try to make people happy and, make them live a good life, like I have. That's all I'm looking for. So, that's that.
John, just one more story. Tell them about the washer dryers.
Oh, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we have a program for the through St. Vincent de Paul that we didn't think it up. I saw it on I started doing it, and then I saw it on TV, but we had started it already. So what we do is we went to Diane, I was talking about earlier, and I said, Diane, who can you identify any families in the projects that can't have a washer and that don't have a washer and dryer because they're too they just can't afford it and they're too poor? And she goes, yeah, we have 3 or 4 families. I said, with kids? And she said, yeah, they all have kids. And I said, so what do they do? They say they walk back and forth. One person has a car that goes back and forth. One lady pays a woman to drive her back and forth. I said, okay. I said, can you get me those names? I went to the deacon. I went to other people in the St. Vincent de Paul, and I said, listen, why don't we do this program where we'll buy people washers and dryers, buy them a washer and dryer, put it in their unit, and then they don't. I mean, the money that they can save just in the first couple of months of doing the washer and dryer, they don't have to pay to get back and forth. They don't have to carry the stuff back and forth, and you know. A wash and a dry, which I don't know if anybody knows that, it's over $10 now to do a load of laundry. It's not $1.25 anymore, you know. It's very expensive. So, you know, these kids can't go to school with dirty clothes. They can't go to school stinking. They won't go to school. They will stop going to school. And like, would you want to go to school and not in raggedy, dirty clothes? I mean, it's bad enough that they're not the best clothes, but if they're clean and they can present themselves nice, that's huge for a mother and father to send their kids off to school in clean clothes. So we started a program doing that, and we've to this date we have done eight pairs of washers and dryers, and then another 5 where people just needed a single, like, oh, my dryer broke and we got a dryer for them. You know, and it's the same thing. I just got a call, an email from St. Vincent de Paul yesterday, a woman moving into the West End development, and she got in there and she didn't realize it doesn't come with a refrigerator. And she says, I don't have money to buy a refrigerator. I don't have any money. I don't know how I'm going to pay the $180 a month to live here. She said, how am I going to get a refrigerator? And she's got 3 kids. It's like, that can't happen. You can't have one day without a refrigerator with 3 little kids. I mean, that's crazy. That shouldn't happen. So we're going to step in and we're going to get them something. We're going to get them something that's going to keep them cold. I don't know if it's going to be a brand new one or we're going to get one. We've had very good luck. My wife's a whiz on getting used appliances and getting good ones. The only thing with that is you need some muscle to move it, you know, and it's always the second floor, man. I'll tell you, it's always the second floor. They always live on the second floor. I don't know what. No one ever lives on the first floor, you know, so, but it's, but I don't care. I don't care if it's a 3rd floor, you know, if you can get it up for them and just to see their faces when you give it to them. I gave 2 window air conditioners to a family at the West End development last week, and the mother, I'll never forget the smile. She was like, oh my God. She was so happy, so happy. They had no air conditioner. They had one of these little plastic tower fans that was going back and forth like that. I'd be better off going like that to her, you know. It was like, oh. But so it's just a good feeling to be able to help people like that, and to be able to have the St. Vincent de Paul behind you. You know, it's not all your money. You know, it's money of the parishioners that are helping us out to help these people, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Ryan's in it. Ryan knows it's great, and I want to get up and I want to talk, not do this talk, but I want to get up and talk to the kids in Sunday school, and I want to talk to them about St. Vincent de Paul and about, you know, putting yourself out there and helping people that don't have what you have. And, you know, if you see kids in your class that don't have nice stuff, you know, say, what size are you? I have sneakers at home that I can give you. Why don't you take a pair of these?
I want to say 2 things.
Sure.
One, thank you so much for speaking.
Thank you.
Very powerful talk, and I know our group has talked a lot about the power of prayer, and I really felt that in your story, especially, you know, with the whole marathon bombing, that scene, like I can picture it, right? I can picture you behind the tree and just everything going, and it's amazing that nobody got hurt and that your faith kept you going through those moments. And, you know, I think sometimes we don't know how powerful our faith can be. And I think that's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
I did have one question. You mentioned at the start of your story that you know, your dad had told you, like, you know, I failed, you know, none of you go to church, and you mentioned you're a cop, your brother's a cop, right, your sister's a nurse, and the fourth one I can't remember?
Teacher.
Do you think that your dad's faith was the reason that all of you went into professions of helping people, and that could have been the catalyst to other things?
Possibly, because if my father had money, he would have been the most generous person in the world. He gave his time and his talents to anyone, even to people who didn't want it. He'd be out like he was a gardener, and he'd love to give stuff away, or build a garden in your yard, or if he worked for the phone company, he'd love to always put phones in. Hey, you got a daughter? I got this beautiful pink princess phone. I'll put it in her, and he'd run the wires and put it in just to see the kids smile. You know, my father, he was just that type. He was just a very gentle. Just a quick story about him. I remember him saying to me, he came home one day and he's like, he's got this puss on his face. I'm like, what's the matter? I was a young kid. He's like, the world's done. He goes, I was at the supermarket today, and the kid walked by, and I go, hey, how you doing, buddy? I rubbed his head, and the mother looked at me and says, don't touch my child. He goes, I was just saying hi to the kid. I said, yeah, Dad, you can't touch kids. You can't just, I mean, this was like in the probably 90s, you know, so it still wasn't as bad as it is now, but you still knew you probably shouldn't be going like this to some kid, you know, so, but I said, that's the way it is. You can't do that anymore. But you could do that. Like my wife says it to me all the time. Honey, you're not in uniform. Get away from that kid. Get away, because people don't know. I'm like, hey, buddy, how you doing? Come here. You know, it's like, hey, honey, you're not in your uniform. Get away from that kid. You know, and it's true. I was like, oh, geez, you're right. I look like a Skinner or something. You know, so I was like, oh, so, but whatever. You know, I'd rather have people think that of me than not be who I am. Than I not tell a kid, hey, how you doing, buddy? I'd rather do that, you know, so it is what it is.
I was just curious because I was wondering if, despite everything your dad said, his faith, regardless of where you were in your life, in your faith journey at that point, was the seed that ended up blossoming into everything else, and that maybe without him in that conversation, your faith journey wouldn't be what it is today.
Oh, it wouldn't. There's no way. I mean, he shamed me into it, and then once I got there, I loved it. It was like, I don't know what to, you know, I don't know what to equate it to, but he shamed me into it. I went and I said, why haven't I been doing this forever? What was I thinking? And that's what I try to pass on to my friends. And you know, you can't be that guy like, hey, how come you're not going to church? But I just say, you know, like, you believe in God, right? Of course I believe in God. It's like, how come you're not going to church? Well, you know, I don't have time. It's like, dude, come on, you know. I got a priest that'll get you in and out in 22 minutes. Come on, let's go. Let's go.
It was during my lunch hour.
So, but you know, I can't say enough about I love God. I love the church. I love being a Catholic. I love it, and that's why I should say something. I've been wearing this. I have this in my prayer book, and I put it on when I go to Mass. And when I go to Mass, you know, as you can tell, I have ADHD. I'm all over the place, and I always got something in my hand. I'm always touching, and I love this thing.
Is that the rosary?
It is. It's the rosary ring, but it's like my fidget spinner. I love it. I love it. So I wear it all. I'm telling you, I probably for the last month I've been wearing it off and on. And my wife's like, "How come you still have that thing on?" I'm like, "I really like it, and I want people to know that I'm a Catholic." So many people like, what is that? I say, oh, it's a prayer ring. You know, it's a Catholic prayer ring. You know, when I say the rosary, you know, you can count. Wow, that's really nice. Like, I've had more people give me compliments on this than anything I've ever worn in my life. So and it gives you a chance to tell people, hey, yeah, I'm Catholic, and you know, hey, you know, maybe we can meet at church someday. You know, so hey, that's what it is. But thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.